Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by English Mountain Spring Water. If you're a person who thinks, oh, water is water, that tells me something about you. It tells me you've never tasted English Mountain Spring Water if you think water is water. Because if you have, you'll know there is zero aftertaste. There are zero additives. The same pure water that's been bubbling up from an underground aquifer for centuries can be yours at home or at your business. English Mountain H2O, letter O, not number 0, H2O.com, and you can find out how to get a sample of it. You can find out how to order it for yourself. English Mountain Spring Water from right up here in Dandridge, Tennessee. All right. We got to close out with 4 rapid-fire questions. We got a little bit of time here, so we'll be good. Aside from Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, which coach on Tennessee's schedule scares you the most this fall? Bob Hodge.
Bobby Petrino.
Stole my answer.
That was my answer, too.
You got the talent. Last year their offense was terrible. Bobby Petrino could come in there and turn that around. So
if Jimbo Fisher lets him.
If Jimbo Fisher lets him, exactly.
Yeah, if this thing clicks for A&M, Bobby Petrino is going to get a maddening amount of credit for Jimbo. And,
a good point.
And I think that, but it's like we saw what Jimbo had for the last couple of years offensively and schematically. Like, I don't know how you watch A&M last year and not think the scheme's a problem.
If this works, I would think it's possible that it's a 1-year marriage.
It's definitely going to be a 1-year marriage.
Because if it works, I could see Petrino, somebody saying, well, let's give him his 400th shot as a head coach. And I could see Jimbo saying, bye.
I've heard from some coaches hoping they stream the coaches' meetings because they're going to be incredible.
It's a couple of egos. All right, coach on the schedule not named Saban or Smart that scares you.
I guess I'm still in the idea then. I'm going to say Liam Cohen coming back to Kentucky because 2 years ago they had the right offensive approach. They fell short, but they said, hey, we got to go into shootout mode here with Tennessee and almost win the game.
With Will Levis.
So if he gets Leary in that offense going in the right direction again, then that Kentucky game becomes tough.
Yeah, I thought about Cohen, but there's a history there with Kentucky. So they're going to find a way to lose even if they are more competitive and better offensively. So I will also say Jimbo, largely because of Bobby Petrino and the talent that's there.
Let's take a look at the schedule. We'll leave this up for a second as we discuss this question. What are the toughest back-to-back games on UT's schedule? And I think Josh may have hinted at it earlier in terms of my opinion. Let's see if anybody else has that. Josh, if you want to reiterate what your thinking was earlier?
Yeah, I'll say at Bama, then turn around, have to go to Kentucky while they're off to get ready for you.
They got an open day before playing you.
Yeah, and you're going into that Bama game after having played A&M. But the back-to-back, I would say Bama, Kentucky, both on the road.
Do we have another one?
I'm going to agree with that.
I do too.
Yeah, I would say that's number 1. I think the A&M Bama back-to-back can be tough just because those two teams beat you up on the lines. They're so physical. And A&M, for all their failures the last couple of years, they've still been really good on both lines, which is kind of amazing that they've been so bad.
Yeah, from a talent standpoint in consecutive weeks.
Yeah, they're a ways away from the Maroon Goons and the Wrecking Crew, but like they're still really good on those lines.
Let me give you a wild card. At Missouri, then Georgia. One, it's on the road where you're 3-2 against them since they came in. They gave Georgia a good game there last year. But the real reason is, if you're still in this with a shot at the East, are your eyes on Georgia when you're playing at Missouri?
Trap game city.
So I'll put Missouri-Georgia as a possible tough back-to-back simply because are you focused correctly, which I believe you hinted at earlier. I'm just stealing from you today.
And I think it's easy to overlook Missouri, but those guys have scholarships too.
Let's look number 3. We'll keep that graphic up there. But question number 3, I really don't see this happening, but if Joe Milton struggles, how long is his leash? What is the earliest? If he struggles and we're waiting on Nico Iamaleava to develop, at what point would Josh Heupel make the switch? What is the earliest imaginable? And again, I don't think that's going to happen, but what is the earliest you would imagine that happening? Vince?
I will say open date after South Carolina.
Okay.
And that's still 5 games right there. I think he will have a longer rope
Leash.
than what fans would want.
Okay. Do we need the graphic? We know the schedule, right? Okay, good. We can bring that back to us. Josh, where are you going? What's the earliest you might see Nico as starter?
As starter, I would say open date. The changeover, I would say earliest would be mid-South Carolina game. If you've struggled throughout and you're still struggling in the middle of that game, you make a switch to see if you can change things up. And if Nico does well enough, then he gets the shot.
Yeah, I think if you've beaten Florida, it's not a conversation.
Right.
So let's assume if you're talking changes, that means you've lost to Florida.
Right.
You're trying not to go 0-2 in the SEC. I would say halftime is where you'd make the switch, and it would be the start after the open date. Agreed with you.
Well, I mean, I think if you see a Joe Milton that looks remarkably like the Joe Milton you saw in the first half of 2021 in the Virginia game, where everybody's eyebrows are kind of raised, and then you go down, 10 points to Florida at halftime, you got to think about it, don't you? If Nico has really had a nice camp and early in the season, I think as starter, probably Kentucky, I would say. Like if you sitting there and it's still
Talk to the
going
guy
okay,
behind, but there's another guy over here. You got to turn your. There we go.
I would say those guys.
I'm going to go back to the original answer that I gave when me and you were discussing this the other day. I think it could be he could start at South Carolina or the game after. See, you took the schedule away. Now I'm already confused. He could start the game after Florida,
Yeah, which would
and
be
he could
the
play at
non-con.
halftime.
But doesn't it have to come off a loss? If you
Yes.
win,
So
it's gonna be
halftime
tough
South-
to-
But here's the thing.
Halftime South
See,
Carolina?
you had me when you said if he struggles against Virginia, because that's my thing. If he's not good against Virginia, but you still should win, even if he's not good, and then you get to Florida and he's still not good in the first half, do you hang around to lose that game, or do you say, well, this guy might not be any better, but we're going to go a different direction?
You got to think about it.
Well, they made the choice pretty early he did get banged up, which helped the choice, but they
Yeah.
made the switch early in the season the last time he was
And
the
trust me,
starter.
I hope that's not the scenario. I'm really pulling for Joe Milton.
He's been a good teammate. It would be a good
Yeah.
story if he has a
Yes.
good year this year. All right, we've got about a minute and a half. BetMGM has the Vols over/under this year at 9.5. That's the highest I've seen. I've seen a lot of 8.5s. 9.5 for BetMGM. David Ubbin, under 9.5 wins for the Vols. You
Yes.
got to okay. Why? Quickly.
A lot of losable games. Can't always get all the breaks. 8 or 9 wins this year.
Over/under.
Yeah, I'm at 9 right now. Last year they went 10-2, and it was a spectacular season. Getting there again is really tough.
Okay.
I actually have over. It's close though, but losing to Georgia and Alabama.
All right. There we go. We got an over. What do you got?
Under.
How far under?
9-3.
Oh, okay.
9-3. I think A&M
pretty
and
quick
Florida
for a-
splittable games.
Okay. Under. What do you got? 9.
I just think this team feels like one that can lose, that doesn't have the same
Yeah.
upside as last year and can lose a game they should not lose.
You're also everybody's going to be gunning for you this year because you
Yes.
won last year. Nobody's going to sleepwalk into that game. There was a real connection between Hendon Hooker and
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt last year. The year before with Cedric Tillman. Is Milton going to have that guy? Is there going to be that connection for Joe Milton? That's going to be key. I'm going to go under, but again, I think it's probably 9-win season. All right. Vince, Josh, David, Bob, thanks to all of you. Thanks to you. Thanks to our sponsors. Have a good and safe Memorial Day, and we'll see you right back here next week on The Sports Source. Thank you.